Hey guys, Erin here, and in case you're wondering why I am all of this today, I'm going to see Bruno Mars in a couple of hours and I'm really excited! As a photographer, one of the questions I hear most often is, Erin, I'm thinking about getting a new camera for my holiday / YouTube channel / to up my Instagram game. What's the best camera? My mind instantly boggles at that question because there isn't really a straight answer. There is no one best camera out there. It all depends on what you're looking for in a camera, how much you're willing to pay, and what you need it to do. That's why I've put this little guide together to sort of demystify the process of buying a new camera, help you decide what it is that you're after. I went a little bit more in depth on this topic in my blog post about it, so if you want to find that, it's down in the description down below. Hit that link and you'll find some of my suggestions for cameras in there as well, based on things that I've tried. And a couple that I haven't tried, mostly things that I've tried. Just before we get started, please don't get into the headspace that a higher megapixel count means a better camera. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. There are a lot more factors to take into account, but basically a megapixel number refers to the size of the photo, as in like how many pixels versus how many pixels and how many megapixels. So a higher megapixel count just means a really, really big photo versus a little bit smaller photo that if you're not going to be printing your photos really big, you don't need a huge megapixel count, so don't let that fool you. For some reason, it's always the first thing they advertise about a camera, like, this is a 36.5 megapixel camera, and I'm like, you don't need that. I want a camera I can throw in my pocket or my handbag, and I don't need it to be able to zoom in on stuff. My friend, you are in luck. You already have exactly the camera that you need, and it's right there in your phone. Phone cameras these days are pretty amazing. There are people out there who make their living off Instagram taking photos just on their phones. The megapixel count is high enough that you can make nice prints from your photos if you need to do very small ones, definitely big enough for online use. Plus it's always with you, so they do say that the best camera is the one that you have with you at the time. Just make sure you're backing up your photos regularly to a computer or a cloud storage system like Dropbox or Google Drive so that you don't lose all of your photos in one go if your phone gets broken or stolen or lost. I want a camera I can strap to my helmet while I snowboard. You're after an action cam. Most people straight away think of GoPro when they think of an action cam, and that's with good reason. They are kind of pioneers in the industry. But lots of other camera manufacturers are coming out with action cams these days too, so there is a bit more in the market for you to take a look at. These days they all do great HD video, some do 4K, some do 60 frames per second. Some will even compile your videos for you, like the latest GoPro Hero 6 I think it is, it works with an app that will compile the videos that you take on it for you and send them to your phone, and it kind of just makes a movie out of all of your footage for you without you having to do anything, which is pretty amazing. One thing to keep in mind is that action cams generally don't take very good still photos. They've got that huge wide angle lens that gives you that sort of bubble-ish effect so you can see so much of the scene all in one go. They're not great for photos, and honestly the sound from them kind of sucks. So if you're really into your movie making and you're not wanting to overlay music over your footage, then an action cam's probably not for you. Or you can record your sound on something else and then sync them up later. It's up to you. I don't really want to use my phone as a camera, but I don't have a huge budget either. You'd be best suited to a cheaper compact camera. I don't use these cameras, so I don't really have one that I can recommend from my personal use. But in general, these cameras can zoom in a little bit for you. They do a pretty good job of choosing all of the right settings so that you don't have to. And if you're someone who likes to separate the photos on your phone from the photos that you take with another camera, then this is a good way for you to do that. Keep in mind that a cheap camera also means a cheap lens and a cheap sensor, which means the image quality isn't necessarily going to be amazing, but it should be enough to get you through. I definitely want better quality than my phone, but I still want to keep it small. I care about zooming in on stuff a little bit because I might want to take it on a plane or to a zoo or take it to my kid's soccer game. You're in need of what's sometimes called a travel compact or a long zoom camera. They call them that because they can zoom in a long way, but they're still compact enough to fit in your pocket, chuck it in your handbag. They're very small, very light. Some of them also offer full manual controls for those who like to have full control over their exposure or maybe want to learn to shoot in manual. Here's one I prepared earlier. And a lot of them these days will have a flip out screen like this so that you can film yourself while you're on the go, which can be really good for vlogging. Keep in mind that most of them are small enough that they will not have a mic input on them, so if audio quality is important to you, these are probably not the camera for you. I really want a camera that can do everything, but I don't want to buy multiple lenses. If you're not keen on switching out lenses but you still want great quality, you're going to want to go for what's called a bridge camera. I've reviewed a couple of those on my channel before, so I have a couple that I can recommend, but basically it's like the feeling and the look of a DSLR without having to change the lenses. Generally, bridge cameras have a massive zoom range, which means you can get really close to the action, and a lot of bridge cameras these days offer 4K video, flip out screens, mic inputs, the whole shebang. So if you're after an all-in-one that does really good quality, very versatile, then you definitely should be looking into a bridge camera. Not all of them have the external mic input, so that's something to look out for if you make videos, and I'm really conscious of that because I make videos. I already speak camera, but I'd like something smaller and lighter that I can take on holidays with me, and I wouldn't mind if it looked a bit vintage. Then you're going to need a high-end compact camera. These babies come with a price tag, but that price tag does get you a better quality lens, a larger sensor, all of your manual controls, all in a really compact, small package. These are very much the cameras that professional photographers tend to lean towards when they're scaling down to travel and don't want to take a huge amount of kit with them, but be warned, the price tags definitely reflect the quality. They don't offer massive zoom ranges like a lot of the travel compacts do. A lot of them are more like the 35mm sort of look that was the standard in film photography, and a lot of them look like vintage cameras as well, which is kind of nice. I'm ready for the versatility of a camera that can change lenses, but I still don't want a huge camera. Mirrorless camera systems are still a relatively new area in the camera industry, but there is a lot to choose from. They've been a really popular choice for a lot of people because they're so compact, but they can still generally get great quality, and you have all of the flexibility of changing lenses, getting the right lenses that are tailored to what you like to do. They're a good choice if you prefer to compose your shot on an LCD screen where you can see it out here rather than the viewfinder up to your eye. And they're generally smaller and lighter than DSLRs, which is really handy. The range of lenses available for mirrorless cameras is still smaller, but it is growing rapidly, so don't feel like you'll miss out. One thing to keep in mind with mirrorless cameras is that they really service a huge slice of the market. So some of them are definitely more marketed towards consumers and travel cameras and stuff like that. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got crazy mirrorless cameras that professionals use, so there's a huge range of them out there. I'm thinking about learning to use manual settings, and I want more flexibility to edit my photos. I don't mind if my camera's a little bit heavier. Congratulations, my friend, you are ready to step up to your first DSLR. They generally have bigger sensors than compact cameras do. They feel really satisfying to use because they just feel good in your hands, like a little bit heavier, a little bit more heft, a little bit more power. And you can customize them to your area of interest by investing in the appropriate lenses. If you're planning to edit your photos, then I recommend that you would shoot in RAW, which DSLR cameras do really well, though a lot of the compacts and bridge cameras and stuff offer RAW shooting as well. But do keep in mind that before it gets to your phone, if you're planning to share it on social media, you're going to have to go through your computer to convert the RAW file to a JPEG, either by editing it and exporting it or just as a straight conversion. Otherwise, you can shoot in RAW and JPEG and send the JPEGs to your phone. That's what I do when I travel. I already shoot in manual, and I want nice bokeh, good performance in low light, and super high resolutions. If you're after all of that in a camera, then it's time for you to go full frame. Full frame means that the sensor inside the camera is the same size as what 35mm film was in the days of film. There are some people who still shoot film, but a full frame sensor means that that sensor is twice the size of what you can get in a compact camera or in the smaller DSLRs, which generally means that the rest of the camera has to be bigger to work with it. They usually have really fast processors, they can shoot at really fast shutter speeds, they work beautifully in low light, and depending on your choice of lens and your choice of settings, you can get that gorgeous creamy bokeh, the blurry backgrounds. Basically, a full frame DSLR is what you probably think of when you think of a professional camera, and I'm shooting this video on a full frame DSLR, my Nikon D800, which is lovely. On the flip side, you can also get mirrorless full frame cameras these days, like Sony have an amazing series of them, and I've got to try out the A9. It's a mirrorless full frame camera, and it's beautiful, but it's really expensive. They're generally similar in terms of image quality. Generally on a mirrorless camera, the megapixel count is a little bit lower, but they can shoot much faster than a traditional DSLR because you don't have that mechanical shutter having to flip the mirror, take the photo, flip the mirror back down. Every time you shoot, it can just go tick, 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 like it's shooting video, and save all of those frames as individual still images. Some of them can also perform better in low light as well, so it depends on what you're looking for. I would love to upgrade my system to mirrorless full frame cameras, but that's a ways down the road for me, so just because they are a bit expensive. Hopefully one of these scenarios has suited you and you've got an idea now of what kind of camera you're looking for, so you can go forth and research and find the one that's best for you. I honestly don't believe that any brand is better than any other brand. I've used amazing cameras from Panasonic, amazing cameras from Nikon. My very first camera was an Olympus and I loved it. That was a long time ago. Canon make great cameras, Sony make great cameras. Honestly, it's like the Fender-Gibson debate for guitarists. Like they do the same thing slightly differently and they're all wonderful. So whatever camera you end up with, I wish you all of the best. As I said earlier, I went a little bit more in depth on all of these kinds of cameras. In my blog post, there's a link to that down below, which also includes some suggestions of some cameras that I've used that I've loved, an idea of price ranges and that sort of thing as well. Those are all in Aussie prices. I'm sorry guys, I live in Australia. Most of my friends who've asked are Australian as well, so if you want to read that, you can find that in the description down below. Oh, did you hear my shoulder crack just then? I hope you've learned something from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye! I'm gonna go see Bruno Mars now. See ya!